Hey everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're diving into one of the most dramatic and powerful stories ever told, the 10 Plagues of Egypt. It's a tale of divine intervention, a stubborn king, and the liberation of a nation. So grab your popcorn, because this story has more plot twists than a blockbuster movie. Let's set the scene. For hundreds of years, the Israelites were enslaved in Egypt, forced into brutal labor under the thumb of the Pharaohs. Generations passed, and their cries for freedom reached the heavens. God chose a man named Moses, who had been raised in the Pharaoh's own palace, but had since fled to be his messenger. His mission? To go to the most powerful man in the world, Pharaoh, and deliver a simple but earth-shattering message. Let my people go. Now you can imagine how that went down. Pharaoh, who considered himself a god on earth, wasn't about to release his entire workforce just because some shepherd showed up with a staff and a demand. He scoffed, he refused, and he even increased the Israelites' workload to punish them for asking. This is where things get intense. God told Moses that he would demonstrate his power in a way that Egypt and the world would never forget. And so began the 10 plagues. The first plague was a shocking transformation. Moses, following God's command, struck the Nile River with his staff, and instantly the lifeblood of Egypt turned to blood. The water became undrinkable. The fish died, and a foul stench filled the land. Can you imagine the panic? The Nile was central to everything in Egypt, their water source, their transportation, their spiritual life. Yet Pharaoh's heart remained hard. His own magicians were able to replicate the effect on a smaller scale, so he dismissed it. But this was just the beginning. The second plague followed. Frogs. Not just a few frogs, but a carpet of them. They swarmed out of the rivers and into every corner of Egyptian life. They were in their houses, in their bedrooms, even in their ovens and kneading bowls. It was a slimy, croaking nightmare. This time Pharaoh cracked a little. He begged Moses to pray for the frogs to go away, promising he would let the Israelites go. Moses did, and the frogs died. But as soon as the relief came, Pharaoh went back on his word. His heart was hardened once more. Next up, the third plague. Lice, or some translations say gnats, a cloud of tiny, biting insects that covered man and beast. Unlike the first 2 plagues, Pharaoh's magicians couldn't replicate this one. They were forced to admit, "This is the finger of God." You'd think that would be a wake-up call, right? Nope. Pharaoh's stubbornness was apparently stronger than a swarm of lice. He still refused to let the people go. So the plagues escalated. The 4th plague was a swarm of flies. But this time something was different. God made a distinction. The swarms tormented the Egyptians, but the land of Goshen, where the Israelites lived, was completely untouched. This was a clear sign that these events weren't natural disasters. They were targeted, divine judgments. Pharaoh tried to negotiate, suggesting the Israelites could worship nearby. But Moses stood firm. It was all or nothing. Again Pharaoh promised, and again, as soon as the plague was gone, he reneged. The 5th plague struck where it really hurt the Egyptian economy, their livestock. A deadly pestilence wiped out the Egyptians' horses, donkeys, camels, cattle, and sheep. Yet, once again, the livestock belonging to the Israelites were completely spared. Not a single one of their animals died. The evidence of God's power and his protection over his people was undeniable. But Pharaoh's heart was described as unyielding. He wouldn't even acknowledge the loss. Things got personal with the sixth plague, boils. Moses threw soot from a furnace into the air, and it settled on the Egyptians as festering boils. These painful sores afflicted everyone, from the common person to Pharaoh's own magicians, who were in too much pain to even stand before Moses. The suffering was immense, but Pharaoh's pride was even greater. He dug in his heels, refusing to give in. The seventh plague brought a storm of epic proportions. Thunder, lightning, and the most destructive hail Egypt had ever seen rained down from the sky. It shattered trees, flattened crops, and killed anyone or anything caught outside. But just like before, the land of Goshen was a bubble of peace and safety, untouched by the devastating storm. Pharaoh, in a moment of terror, confessed his sin and admitted he was wrong. He promised to let the people go, but the moment the storm stopped, his promise melted away like the hail itself. Are you seeing a pattern here? It's a cycle of plague, panic, promise, and then a hardened heart. The eighth plague was a locust swarm that devoured whatever the hail had left. A green and vibrant land was turned black and desolate in hours. The devastation was absolute. Pharaoh's own officials begged him, "Don't you realize that Egypt is ruined?" He called for Moses and made another hollow promise, but it was too late for half measures. Then came the ninth plague, one of the most terrifying of all, a thick, suffocating darkness. For 3 days, a palpable darkness covered all of Egypt. People couldn't see each other or even move from their places. It was a complete shutdown of society. But in Goshen, the Israelites had light. This plague was a direct challenge to Ra, the Egyptian sun god, one of their most powerful deities. Even in the face of this profound and supernatural darkness, Pharaoh's resolve didn't break. He made one last-ditch effort to compromise, but Moses refused. In a rage, Pharaoh threw Moses out, warning him that if he ever saw his face again, he would die. This set the stage for the final, most devastating plague. The 10th plague was the death of the firstborn. God warned that at midnight he would pass through Egypt, and the firstborn son in every Egyptian household, from Pharaoh's heir to the son of the lowest servant, would die. Even the firstborn of the livestock would perish. But he provided a way of escape for the Israelites. Each family was to sacrifice a lamb and mark their doorposts with its blood. When the angel of death passed over, it would see the blood and pass over that house, sparing those inside. This event is the origin of the Jewish festival of Passover. That night a great cry of grief rose up throughout Egypt, for there was not a house without someone dead. This final tragic blow finally shattered Pharaoh's resistance. He summoned Moses and Aaron in the middle of the night and didn't just tell them to leave. He begged them to go, to take everything they owned, and to be gone. And so, after 430 years of bondage, the Israelites walked out of Egypt as a free people. The 10 plagues weren't just random acts of destruction. They were a systematic dismantling of the Egyptian pantheon of gods, and a demonstration of God's supreme power and authority. Each plague targeted a specific aspect of Egyptian life and worship, proving their gods were powerless. It's a story about freedom, faith, and the consequences of a hardened heart. It shows that no empire or ruler is too powerful to stand against the will of God. What do you think is the most powerful lesson from this story? Let me know in the comments below. It's a complex and fascinating narrative with layers of meaning. Thanks so much for watching and for exploring this incredible story with me. If you enjoyed this video, Please give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for more deep dives into epic historical and biblical accounts. We'll see you in the next video.